So a friend of mine sent me this, well, clickbait recently, and I kind of wanted to talk about it. Japanese scientists reversed aging and humans could live 250 years. You know, this is the kind of bullshit, baseless claim that is precisely why I rarely go on Instagram. Let's separate the hype from reality, shall we? So, scientists discovered this protein known as AP2A1. This stands for Adapter-Related Protein Complex 2 Alpha-1 Subunit. Yeah, sorry, we still haven't figured out how to actually name them in a more interesting way. But as you might guess, this protein is encoded for by the AP2A1 gene. For those of you not of a scientific mind, see the gene as what makes the protein. If you want to manipulate, adapt, or increase/decrease the quantity of said protein, you need to mess with the gene. It's like the factory, I guess you could say. So, under normal circumstances, AP2A1 is part of something called the AP2 adapter complex. This complex is involved in something called clathrin-mediated endocytosis. This is basically the way that cells pull specific molecules in from their surface. Cells are not static, they are constantly internalizing receptors, nutrients, these signaling molecules, and they're recycling components, usually membrane components. The AP2 complex acts kind of like a sorting and recruitment system. It helps package selected surface proteins into vesicles, so these are like these bubbles that they send out or bring in, and they use this so that they can bring them into the cell. So already what we're starting to see is that AP2A1 is not an aging protein, it's a trafficking protein. It helps to regulate what comes into the cell and how surface receptors are handled. So when these scientists looked at senescent cells, that is cells that have stopped dividing, you know, this is something associated with age usually, they found that AP2A1 levels, geez, I need to find a short form way of saying that, they found that AP2A1 levels were significantly elevated and redistributed along thickened actin stress fibers. Now, as anyone who has completed Biology 101 will know, correlation does not equal causation. In fact, anyone's completed any science of any kind. But the question then became, this AP2A1, is it simply a marker of cellular senescence, or is it actively participating in the aging process? So to test that, these scientists started researching reduced expression of this AP2A1 in these senescent cells. And what they found was actually very, very interesting. See, these old cells began to revert to a more youthful phenotype when this expression was downregulated. Conversely, when AP2A1 was overexpressed in young cells, those young cells started exhibiting features of senescence. Now, as someone who is obsessed with anti-aging and has kind of focused a huge element of his life around it, this kind of finding I should be jumping over the moon at. I see anti-aging as something that is both a necessity and a priority of our civilization. You know, this is the kind of thing I love to see. But those of you in the longevity community, or those of you that follow it, will be aware that it has now been over a decade since Yamanaka factors were discovered. Yamanaka factors, for those of you unaware, are transcription factors, and it was found that a combination of these, when they were introduced into a specialized cell, you know, like a skin cell or a nerve cell, they could revert it back into a stem cell, and this is a process which is known as induced pluripotency. We can turn a cell into a stem cell, which in turn creates more healthy cells of the type originally converted. That is a rejuvenation process. It's something that has been talked about for ages, about how we can rejuvenate the body and potentially, yes, reverse aging. And yet to date, at the time of me recording this, there have not been any approved true anti-aging drugs. So whilst some are excited about this, or actually looking through the comments on this post, many people are kind of horrified, and the reasons for that is a topic I want to tackle. And I'll just say right now that they're not wrong to be horrified about it. There's a lot of social and political reasons why people do not like the idea of anti-aging, and it is a major thing we're going to have to tackle, but that's a topic for another day. Let's bring this back to the research. Because on the surface, you know, this kind of bidirectional manipulation, it sounds revolutionary. Reduce AP2A1 and the cells look younger, and increase it, they seem to look older. But we have to be careful. What this experiment, or experiments I should say, demonstrate is phenotypic reversibility in vitro. And it's what I fucking despise whenever journalists, or in this case influencers, get their grubby paws on scientific data. They overhype it to the point of it just straight up being wrong, or at least their claims are just bullshit. It's important to note at this point, this experiment, or these experiments, were not done in living organisms. Yes, there were changes in morphology, cytoskeletal organization, proliferation markers, and expression of senescent associated genes in these cultured cells. That is significant, I'm not denying it. But it is not the same as reversing aging in a living organism, in a complex organism. A cell in a dish is not tissue. And tissue is not an organism. I mean, for Pete's sake, for those of you who know me on a personal level, or at least have interacted with me through Discord or whatever, the entire reason I'm currently doing a medical degree, that I'm despising I might add, with no interest in becoming a traditional medical doctor, was to try and have a holistic understanding of how the body worked together. I mean, fool me for not realizing the entire back end of this degree as learning hospital policy instead of actual medicine and science, hence both my general grumpiness today and my desire to spend more time talking about the shit I actually care about. Let's give them a drug that all the scientific evidence shows is shitter than the alternative. Oh, but NICE guidelines have said that actually that's the one we should be using, based on who the fuck knows evidence. My existential crisis and bitching aside, it's important to note that aging at the level of a human body involves immune signaling, epigenetic drift, you know, mitochondrial dysfunction, the 12 hallmarks of aging, you know, all of this stuff. So the question isn't, can we make a cell appear younger under controlled conditions? We clearly can. But whether modulating a single protein like this AP2A1 can meaningfully shift aging trajectories in a living organism without introducing new risks. I know right now I sound like a Debbie Downer, but the longevity field has seen genuine paradigm-shifting discoveries before, and yet despite the level of biological control we can exert, you know, despite the fact that we can erase and rewrite cellular identity, we still don't have an approved drug whose indication is aging. We have drugs for the disease of aging, dear God, we have no fucking end to them, but aging itself is not yet a regulated, treatable condition. See, for me personally, one thing I do like about this research and these experiments, when you peel apart all of the hype and all of the crap around it, I like it because it supports one of my, I guess you could say, more controversial stances, but I'm finding it one that increasingly makes more sense and is increasingly more defensible. Aging is, at least in part, a regulated biological process. When altering a single protein like AP2A1 can push cells in and out of senescent phenotypes, that suggests the age state is not merely the chaotic accumulation of damage, as so many keep wanting to claim. It is being actively maintained. Senescent cells don't simply fall apart, they execute a structured transcriptional and architectural shift, and that level of coordination implies regulatory control. AP2A1 is part of this massive puzzle. It sits within the regulatory network. Its upregulation in senescent cells and the partial reversal of senescence markers when it's suppressed indicates that the aged phenotype is stabilized by defined molecular machinery. That aligns with the programmed aging framework. Aging is not just entropy overwhelming biology, but biology enforcing a late life state through gene expression patterns and signaling pathways. To be a tiny bit more professional for a moment, in the broader landscape, let's say, this finding is best understood as the identification of another regulatory node. No single protein is going to override the vast network. Again, I talked for 3.5 hours before about the 12 hallmarks of aging. One thing isn't going to fix all of that. But if aging is indeed maintained by coordinated gene expression programs, then mapping those programs is important. It's not going to be one discovery that you read the headlines of on Instagram or Facebook or whatever brain rot social media you come across. Let's face it, even mainstream media nowadays is exactly the same. They're going to run with the same fucking headline. I guess I'm not being that much more professional. The point is, AP2A1 represents one component of a very vast set of machinery that locks cells into an age state. And realistically, in the short term, knowing this and the impact it has gives us mechanistic clarity. Medium-term impact could be more refined strategies for modulating senescent cell behavior. Again, not necessarily eliminating them, but at least altering their phenotype. And then hopefully, and it is my genuine hope, that long term, through safety and demonstration of efficacy, if they can be demonstrated in vivo, then it can be combined into longevity interventions, but combined in combination with other ones, not a standalone cure. Anyways, I know this was a little bit more off the cuff than I tried to do. I just find that my tolerance for bullshit is decreased, and I was pissed off about this and had to talk about it, so I'll try to leave it on a slightly more positive note. This discovery and the discovery of AP2A1 is not the reversal of aging, but it is evidence that aging is biologically organized, and organized systems can, in principle, be re-engineered. I'll continue to look into this and how it works together in the wider framework of anti-aging and longevity. It's a good discovery. It, I believe, will be part of a multifactorial approach down the line, but for the love of God, can we stop with this clickbait bullshit? Because crap like this is precisely why no one takes us seriously and thinks that we're all just crackpots. Stop saying we've reversed aging when we haven't. It's going to take a lot more time until we get there.